And welcome to episode number can't believe to say this 11 of the Final Whistle. He is Mark, I am Kyle, and we are happy to bring you another episode of the Final Whistle. Mark, what's going on, my guy?
Oh, not much, man. A pretty interesting week when it comes to football and news in general. Got
Yeah,
some MLB playoffs happening at the time of this recording. Two Monday night games at the time of this.
yeah.
Very exciting weekend to say the least. All the way up into Monday.
Yeah, it's a very big weekend. But before we get started, I just want to thank everybody who came on the live show last week. It was fun to get to have a live chat going, get the experience of the live in front of a crowd. So whoever was there, we appreciate you. We thank you, and we can't wait to do this starting in November for a couple months to see how we really like it. So that was just kind of a tease and preview to see how that all went down. But once again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for coming on and hanging out with us for the hour and a half. Well, as we always say in the show, we always have a show. We always have stuff planned, and then either the games mix it up or mess it up, or news messes it up. So we are starting college, where pretty big news did happen this past Saturday or Sunday morning, where Penn State has fired James Franklin, the head
Get him out of
coach.
here.
The head coach of the Nittany Lions is gone after a 10 year, almost 10 years, almost maybe a little shorter than that, but he was there for a while. He's been fired. They've been replaced by the cornerbacks coach. This will be the intern. But Mark, I know you're a big component of maybe they were told you or listening to you saying fire him, but he is fired. Which we're not happy that someone loses their job. We never do that. It's just we never do that. So don't think we're cheering because someone lost a job. It's just the sports in us where there's the takes and comments as we talked about, but we never want anybody to lose their job. But Mark, we'll let the floor is yours for the first comments on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna second that. Obviously, from a human being standpoint, we obviously never want somebody to lose their job. Obviously, he has a family. I believe, he has children. And you never want to see somebody lose their job from the human aspect. But when it comes to the sports aspect of things, I think this one was long overdue. I actually truly believe that the fact that Aller also went down in the season and injury, which prayers to him. Hope he has a speedy
Yeah,
recovery, no matter um, how we felt about him in big games or anything like that. He is a top quarterback prospect. You never want to see a kid go down for the season. But I do believe that the misfortune of Aller being out for the season and the fact that Franklin just can't win big games, and now they're on a 3 game slide here against two teams after that Oregon loss that they really shouldn't have even come close to losing to an 0-4 UCLA team that actually has done, in
won
my
two in a
opinion,
row.
Franklin some favors. Yeah, in winning that second game in a row, and their offense looks like it's got a roll on it. But then you lose to Northwestern, you lose James Franklin's last guy, quote unquote, and big recruit there. And we all know what Penn State has as far as resources go when it comes to being able to get a new coach. I mean, they're a blue blood program. They've always been a big program. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think this is long overdue. I've been chanting for this for years. He can't win a big game. He's horrible as a big game coach. Um, he got lucky limping into the playoffs last year, being that it's a 12-team playoff. But when you can't beat teams like Ohio State's of the world, Michigan's of the world, and now you're losing to your UCLA's, when you have a 4 or 5 star quarterback and you have a good transfer class for the last 2 years, as well as I mean, they still have 2,000 yard rushers for the last 3 years, and you still can't figure it out. You have all time defenses and all time defensive
Yeah,
players, and you can't figure it out. I mean, you deserve to go, and you should have been gone a long time ago, in my personal opinion. I know, Kyle, you and I spoke, and you're probably going to speak about it here, but I do think he will get another job, even though he doesn't really need to. That buyout is 56 mil to sit on his couch. I believe there was a report that for the next over 1,000 days, he's going to be raking in like 2 mil a day or something like that, something crazy like that. So he's obviously not going without a splash in the pond on that bank account, but he should have been fired, in my opinion, a while ago. He's not a very good coach for the type of program that Penn State is trying to be. And as far as sporting perspective goes, get him up out of here. It's been time for him to go.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, what as Penn State did fall to Northwestern 22-21, and a shocker, they were favored by 3 touchdowns in that game. So, if you're betters, you know what that means, but for non-betters or don't know the betting, they're favored by 21 points essentially to beat Northwestern. And obviously in football, anything could happen on any given Saturday or Sunday or Thursday, Monday, pretty much every day of the week. Starting November, they play every day of the week, so you're gonna have football on. But and a buyout for people that don't know or football that much is pretty much they're paying you the rest of your contract almost. They're paying you to pretty much leave the team pretty much. That's pretty much what it is. They're paying, hey, we're going to pay you this much to be gone and we don't have to deal with you again. So he's getting paid all that just to leave and not come back and find a new job. But yeah, Marks, I thought Oregon State as they just opened their job, but I won't be surprised. I know a couple things were saying maybe Virginia Tech for him. It's right there. Those are two programs that are not, he could go back to kind of restart his coaching, could kind of reset everything and not have pressure maybe the first or second year, because no one to expect those teams to have anything to do with the ACC or now Oregon State, the Pac-12 in a couple of years. But it's gonna be interesting where he falls. But for Penn State, I don't know where you turn to. There's big rumors that Nebraska coach Matt Rule is coming or is going to be the head coach. We probably won't know till the end of the season once Nebraska's finished or find out if they're in the CFP. We'll probably know sooner, depending on if Nebraska would sneak into the CFP or not. But that will be probably late November. But Mark, I don't know where he goes. It's very interesting. He's probably gonna be number one on the board, minus a Matt Rule who's probably going to Penn State, we would think, but he's a hot commodity, and schools that do fire their coaches, especially in the Power Four, are gonna be looking for a guy like him.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and especially some of these programs that I mean, and let's give credit where it is due. While I hate James Franklin as a coach, he did rebuild that program after everything that
Yeah,
happened with Joe Pa and Sandusky. He was a predecessor to that, and I mean, let's be honest, he did kind of revive them. I think a place like Oregon State, I do actually like the Virginia Tech hire. If he were to go that route, Virginia Tech is still a program that people enjoy. And in this era of college football, with the transfer portal and everything else, he is a decent recruiter, all things considered.
yeah,
Now he's going to have to obviously go somewhere where, to be successful, he has funds and resources behind him. And I think Virginia Tech does provide that as opposed to an Oregon State. But I do agree, and it's also going to be interesting who falls in that Penn State job because they're going to have some work to do as well. They're an old team by way of like seniors, fifth year seniors, things like that. Obviously, it's easier to rebuild a team in the transfer portal. And if you're talking about Matt Rule, does Raiola come with him or not?
hmm
Is going to be a
What
big
does Aller
question.
do?
Um, yeah, because he can get, I believe, a medical red shirt. He would have to come out this year. But with him having that season-ending injury, I believe he can potentially get that med red shirt. And potentially stay another year. If I'm Aller, I think I still go to the draft. It's still a pretty weak quarterback class that's shaping out, even though it was supposed to be a really heavy one with some heavy hitters. It seems like they're all going to have to at least either take another year or you're going to have to take a flyer on some of these kids that aren't producing very well. But I agree. It's going to be very interesting. I know there was reports earlier this morning on ESPN that Penn State could be looking at Texas Tech's head coach, which
Well, that
I
yeah.
mean that would be an interesting hire if they were able to get that. I know obviously Penn State has boatloads of money from their collective and things like that, but at the same time, so does Texas Tech and all those Texas schools. So it'll be interesting to see not only where Franklin falls, but where Penn State goes moving forward because they are a big time blue blood program that ultimately has a lot to offer when it comes to a coach wanting to build his resume, and that's the top of the heap right there. Like a Penn State and Oregon and Ohio State. That's one of those jobs that's once in a lifetime. So it'll be very interesting where the chips fall there.
Yeah, and we kind of knew something was off when his family was in the post game press conference on Saturday. We were talking about that earlier today, Monday, that it was kind of weird. His family was in there, and we maybe thought something was going on because I don't really think you get a family member in there midway through the season unless you definitely know
Yeah.
something's going on. That was kind of weird. We saw, but and some of the players were rallying around him on X and all that, but It'd be interesting. Now the rules are they have 30 days. The team has 30 days for a transfer window, so anybody on the current team could transfer out if they wanted to, and then it closes. Let's see, when did he get fired? October what 12th? So they got till
Yep,
pretty much November
13th,
12th,
13th.
13th. Was that what it was? No, today's 13th.
Or
12th.
no, he got fired yesterday, so yeah, it would have been the 12th.
The 12th. So they got pretty much till November 12th to decide if they're going to transfer or not. Nobody big has transferred yet. Only recruits have kind of backed away. So we'll see
Yeah,
what
recruits
who.
have opened up their recruitment, which is also another going to
Uh,
be another story. Do they go where, or do they wait and see where Franklin goes, or do they wait and
yeah.
see where what head coach lands over there as well? Because they had a pretty good recruiting class, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting. I think the big story is gonna be where Aller goes. What he decides, because he's probably not coming back. We don't even know if he'll be ready for the combine at this point, because we got December, November, December, January, February. That's 4 months. So if he's gonna be ready in
Yeah,
4 months, he might not be ready. So they might be like, will the teams still pick him in a first round, like in the top 10 or top 20? Will they? Will he start falling? And if he gets the indication, maybe he's gonna fall because of this. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back one more year. Does he transfer? Maybe because maybe he goes and he played at a lower school to just get his feet back under him and just play ball. Or does he, like you said, does he go where Franklin goes? That could be a thing too. Does he follow him to Virginia Tech or an Oregon State? But I don't. That's gonna be very interesting to tell Mark some of these storylines for Penn State and Aller and Franklin as we move on the next couple months.
yeah. I mean, they're gonna be hot takes all around this, and it's definitely a story to follow. Again, long overdue, but it it gives people something to follow. When or throughout the season when some of these teams start to fall out, especially
Yeah.
if they happen to be one of your favorite teams. This is another thing where I mean Franklin could end up anywhere really.
Yeah, so that's very interesting story. One of the fascinating stories that's gonna be with football, the like college football the next couple months, along with other things. They've already talked to you guys about Clemson and UNC and all those teams. So very interesting to see where James Franklin. But and like I said, we're not happy they lost his job. We may joke about it on here or something, but we hope for the best for him and his family, and we know they're good with they're sitting good right now. But as a human aspect, it's just like any other job. You hate to see somebody get fired. When they lose their job, when they got a family or whatever to support. So we'll see where Penn State, as they did lose once again, Northwestern 22-21. It's not going to be pretty. They got Iowa coming up, Indiana coming up, and Ohio State coming up. They could be looking at 6 losses or more before, and not even make a bowl at this point after being a top three
Yeah.
team literally 3 weeks ago.
Yep. And
So
that backup's gonna have opportunities, but at the same time, if you're Penn State, you're gonna have to start leaning on that run game pretty heavy, and pray that defense steps up.
if they stay, we don't know. Maybe there could be a shock. We still don't
Yeah,
know.
that's
As
true.
so far is so far the team's been practicing this week. Is as of this recording, nobody's backed out or kind of transferred or entered the portal. So some could change between now and this time of this releasing. But I guess we'll see as the days and weeks go on. So we will move on to college football, as it was a weird, as me and Mark said on both sides, weird weekend for college and NFL. We will discuss. We're going to start with the game that kind of turned the Big Ten upside down. Michigan loses to USC 31-13, and Michigan, Mark, looked all out of sync. The defense just they couldn't tackle to save their lives. Offense finally had a freshman game from Underwood. He was kind of, I won't say he was kind of shaken out of his realm, but I think with the O line still trying to get healthy and be gel, that kind of hurt. The refs were awful too. I'm not blaming that's not a reason, but the refs missed blank calls, some PIs, and Michigan just couldn't capitalize after UFC was just dominant on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest story coming out of that isn't even Underwood; it's the defense.
Yeah.
When you take a look at it, I believe USC was on their fourth string running back. That kid's a walk on, and he ran for
Well,
158 yards
we found
and a
out something about
touchdown
that today, but
on
go ahead. Go ahead, continue.
on 18 carries. So I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, that kid's a walk on. They're on their fourth running back now. We have talked at length when it comes to USC about their weapons on the outside with Lemon, Jacoby Lane, Walker Lyons, things of that nature, and they showed out. That quarterback had a good game. All things considered, I do agree that Underwood did have a bit of a freshman game, but it definitely doesn't help that Haynes went down because you really want to lean on him in a game like that. Obviously, they had Jordan Marshall who steps in, and you expect a little bit more from him. but the O line does have to play better in those big games. But I think the biggest story has to be the defense. Big shout outs when it comes to Michigan's offense. They did have a receiver emerge this week.
Andrew
Andrew
Marsh.
Marsh has 8 receptions, 138 yards, and a touchdown with a 70-yard touchdown. I think that's big for Underwood moving forward. I think we've spoken at it a couple of times. There hasn't really been a weapon for Underwood that has emerged until really this week. Like you expected Samaj Morgan to be that number one, and he's kind of been absent. Their tight ends have been a bit absent. The transfer from Indiana was a prior quarterback,
Foley.
so I mean, what are you really expecting from him as he still learns
He's
and
become
transitions?
he's become number one receiver. The receiver
Yeah,
as
and I feel like that's like a big problem for them. Obviously, is you have a quarterback 2 years ago that transitioned to wide receiver and then transferred after 1 year at wide receiver with Signetti. I mean, if he's being your number one, that's a problem on itself. While he is a good player, he's a big body. Moving forward, obviously, Michigan's still going to most likely get in the bowl game. They have the opportunity to run the
yeah,
table and be in the mix. Let's be honest, they still have 2 losses, but if you run the table and get some big wins in the Big Ten, you can never say die. Andrew Marsh coming up big like that, and I think Underwood realizing that he might have a target there is going to be big moving forward. Underwood still didn't end up with a bad day. He went 5 for 24 with 2 touchdowns. Obviously, the refs didn't help him out very much. I agree with some of the blatant PIs that were not there, but at the end of the day, USC's offense versus Michigan defense is the big story, and USC's offense dominated behind that run game and behind that freshman quarterback who's been playing lights out.
season on the line next week. Pretty much, if you lose this game, pretty much at least you're playing for a bowl game, but still
Yep.
you're playing. You still have a shot. You still have a long shot to get in, but you got teams in front of you. The schedule eases up. You got Northwestern, but Northwestern beat Penn State. How versatile is Penn State though? We're still questioning that. How good is really Penn State? Northwestern's played some decent games though. Maryland's played tough, so I mean the schedule's not as easy, but Michigan, those are games Michigan should dominate. Should dominate the
Yep.
line of scrimmage with the running game and the way Bryce has played. He's he still have great composure. I like the way he's composed. He's not feeling rushed. He's not. He's gonna have these freshman game. He had a freshman game. What are you gonna do? You know he couldn't. I think when Haynes went out, that ruined the whole game plan. You
Yeah,
try
that
lean on.
that was the main killer because I think that changes the entire bit of play calling, especially in a game like that where it was still a relatively close game when Haynes went out, and I mean that kills your entire offensive philosophy when you're talking about a potential Heisman candidate up to this point and arguably the best running back in the entire country going down, going out, and then you have to turn somewhere else.
Yeah, and Marshall's good. He hasn't played a lot. He's been the second string, so he's still trying to. He's got to get his feet on him. But he had some good runs, and Bryce made some good throws, kept them in the game as long as they can. But
Yep.
defense got tired. Defense has to tackle. They haven't tackled good since Nebraska, so it's going to be interesting. They have to tackle, especially when they get to Ohio State. When they get to these teams, tackling's be an issue. I thought the scheme was okay because they forced USC to I think almost 2 picks. I think one or
Yeah,
two picks. The
he
scheme was
he
there.
threw one and almost had another.
Yeah. So it's frustrating, but if I'll be honest, if you don't get into CFP this year or next year, I think he's gone. I think he's got to go. He's not going to be the guy for the job after next year. But the only thing that would keep him here is until Bryce graduates. That's when or leaves. That's when he would. But unless they get a coach that Bryce likes, that's the only way I could see. But I don't know. We'll see how the season goes. If they win this week, season's kind of back on. You take it week by week because then you get Michigan State, who Michigan State's just got decimated by a 2-4 UCLA team.
Yep.
So it could be very
But
interesting how this week goes for Michigan
I
as they
will say
play.
when it comes to Sharon Moore and Michigan, don't don't count them out for firing him this year if they get that third loss. I mean, they spent 10 mil on a quarterback, and for that offense to not be humming the way they want it to, those collectives got money, and they're getting louder and louder because they expect success. So I don't think Moore is completely out of the woods this year. I'm not saying I expect him to get fired, but I wouldn't be shocked if they have a bit of a downfall here and they pick up another 2, potentially 3 losses. I'm not saying they will, but let's say hypothetically that does happen. They pick up a couple more losses. Don't I mean I wouldn't be surprised if more seats a little hotter and you start to hear some of those big time Michigan collectives clamoring for somebody else, and they're willing to put money up. They've shown that.
I would say the only reason he stays is because Underwood. If they unless they
Yeah,
feel Underwood's not going to leave, whether with this coach, if they do switch coaches, I think that's the only reason they don't fire him until they know for sure Underwood won't go. Now, if Underwood, maybe they'll. I don't. It's not like the NFL where you could have a player like help pick the coach. I doubt that's going to happen. But unless they get a
but he
sense,
could.
I'm. I don't know who he would get. That's I just I
If there's an offensive philosophy he likes, um, I mean, there's always potential there. Like, I mean, if you think about it this way, think about how he was recruited to LSU. Let's just say that they go after the LSU OC or something like that. I mean, maybe they talk to Underwood and they say, "Hey, like what type of offense are you trying to run? What philosophy are you looking for, et cetera, et cetera?" And they try to build around him to keep him around. I don't actually really foresee him leaving, all things considered, just because he is a hometown kid, and LSU was offering him a bag of money as well, but he got top dollar from Michigan, so I could see him wanting to build around that home team, and hopefully they get. Obviously, there's Kyle. You and I have talked. They have some receiver recruits coming in next year, so it's not like they're going to like they're not giving him opportunity. But when it comes to coaches, I mean, you could potentially be looking at a situation where you're asking him, "Hey, what do you think about this philosophy? What do you think about this guy? Have you talked to this guy in recruiting?" And I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm either, and I wouldn't be shocked at that.
No, yeah, and we'll see because LSU ain't out of the woods yet. They got a good sneaky Vandy team that's there. I believe they still got Alabama coming up, so LSU might not even have
Yep.
their coach at the end of the season if somehow things they are top 10, but if things take a turn for the worst, for LSU, they might not even have their coach next year. So it's a lot to be decided with the coaching carousel, but very interesting to see how that goes this week. Michigan does get Washington. We probably won't discuss that game at length just because we think Michigan should win, but Washington's sneaky, sneaky. So, but we'll
Yep.
talk about that here in a little bit. OSU, Ohio State defeated Illinois 34-16 in what will probably be Ohio State's final test until Michigan, unless Penn State decides to give them some trouble. But OSU's defense looked good, Mark. They look good again. And Illinois, again, when teams play Ohio State, they shoot themselves in the foot. That punter fell on his knee when he tried to kick it away. The play calling early in the game that kind of was questionable, Mark, but and on the bright side for Illinois, they're the first team to score a touchdown in the red zone on Ohio State this week.
That is true. We gave up our first touchdown in the red zone, which is frustrating. But Matty P, he has his defense firing at all cylinders. I know. I believe it was Caden Curry talked about how there's no name guys on that D line that are just playing their asses off, and I agree with that. But it also helps when you have not only the best linebacker duo, but probably the best DB room in the country. Arvell Reese is arguably I mean, if a linebacker, if you could build a linebacker, you build him. I mean, that guy is insane. He's making plays all over the field. Jermaine Matthews, a big time Ohio kid recruit, comes up with an interception. Caleb Downs is, I mean, we all know who Caleb Downs is and how he plays. Sonny Styles as a younger linebacker is playing great. And you got to see the number one overall corner last year, Devin Sanchez, in his first start. I know he's played sparingly in some games as a nickel, but with Lorenzo Styles out, you got to see Devin Sanchez's first go around. He looked pretty good outside of the first drive. They kind of attacked him. Illinois did come out looking good. However, I've talked about it at length with you, Kyle. I think a lot of these teams they end up in bad spots and bad situations when you don't jump on Ohio State early because once Matt Patricia in that NFL mind of his, once he starts to make those adjustments, they start to play lights out. And the offense they play behind that defense well. I feel
Yeah,
like the offense is really slow paying it, kind of similar to the way they did last year. Obviously, we had that test against Oregon early last year that bit us in the ass. But when it comes to the offense, they're kind of slow playing it, letting the offense come as it goes. So they're playing their best football at the end of the year. Sane does look better and better as the weeks get on. The offensive line looks good. Bo Jackson is a solidified number one. and CJ Donaldson is I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with when it gets down to that 10-yard line or so. He has a nose for the end zone, which I didn't really recognize that version of him from West Virginia, but I mean, he looks good. You got Carnell Tate emerging, and he's going to be a problem if you try to stop JJ. And I mean, let's be honest, JJ's beating quadruple teams at some points in the
Yeah.
games here, and then you put these kids one on one, and you talk a little trash to him, and you've seen him just dust that kid on that fade route and let him have it. So I mean, Ohio State looks to me, and I'm gonna say this as not only a homer but a football fan. They look like the most complete team in college football as of right now. And if you play behind that defense, and that defense continues to play this incredible red zone, bend don't break, and then make their adjustments, I mean, they're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, I will say on the contrary, this will not be me and Homer, me or me being anti-Ohio State. Just what I saw was there was a couple drives where OSU play calling kind of was questionable on that fourth down
Yes, I
play.
agree.
And Ryan, who knows who was calling that play? Was it Ryan? Was it Brian? We don't know. It depends on. But there's a couple that if they're getting a late game situation, especially down the road in the playoffs, they gotta be better at play calling because the play calling was good for the most part. But when teams do lock down Jeremiah Smith and they have a decent guy to cover Carnell Tate, it's gonna come down to can they run the ball, and they struggle a little bit running the ball too with Donaldson
Yep.
and People was it Peoples? Not I know Jackson. Was it Peoples too? Is it?
Yeah, yeah. Donaldson and Peoples are the other two, and
Yeah,
they've kind of yet to get going outside. Like Peoples, you thought he was going to be the number one this year, and he's kind of fell off. Obviously he lost a spot to an electric freshman, but outside of that 10-yard line, sometimes Donaldson is rather questionable as well. As well as behind that O line. Illinois did put up a good fight. I got more and more confident about the game, but Illinois' defense did show some flaws in Ohio State's running game for sure.
yeah. In Illinois, we thought they would probably be one of Cinderellas this year. That's probably not going to be the case as they lost. They have two losses and they have a huge hill to climb. And we thought we'll see them in the
Yeah, but
playoffs.
we'll talk about another Cinderella in here in a second.
Yeah, but and OSU they looked the part and they looked the part on defense. Offense, like you said, Mark's gonna get going. It's just a matter of who kind of puts them in like an oh crap type of moment where they gotta
Yep.
get bailed out by one side of the ball or the other, depending on if it's Indiana or it's someone in the playoff like Georgia or whoever. But it's gonna be interesting down the road when they're not leading and they have to come from behind. Can Sagan do it? He's had some questionable decisions as we talked about, Mark, with the check downs. Sometimes he's scared to throw
Yep.
that ball. And we saw it with not really Minnesota, but like the Ohio game and the couple other games before that or during that span that he just looked scared throwing the ball. Now, confidence is going to grow when you got those two receivers there, and you got those two receivers for another year after this year. But it's been interesting if
Assuming Tate doesn't leave, but you have
yeah,
kids like Mylan Graham coming back. You've got Chris Henry Jr., who's a big 6'7" body coming in as a freshman. You've got his teammate actually at Mater Day, Dixon, who's I think the number 3 or 4 overall wide receiver recruit. Like, I mean, they're gonna reload obviously, and I feel like, I've said it before, any quarterback that plays in the system, you're gonna have confidence throwing the ball, knowing that you have this plethora of guys just coming in and out of the huddle, no matter who it is, no matter where they're from. They're gonna come in and I mean they're gonna be stars. So
yeah. So we will see how they go. They play no, Wisconsin this week. We're not going to talk.
Wisconsin,
Yeah, Wisconsin. We're not going to talk about that game just because Wisconsin should get steamrolled in this game. There's no reason to even discuss it. So Ohio State should win single handedly. I don't think it should be a game after halftime unless somehow there's some voodoo and sometimes there is. Luke Fickle, I mean, is he really coaching for his job or not? Because against Michigan, he wasn't really he didn't care as we talked about last week. He gave up 3 timeouts, took 3 timeouts home with him, and so we Ohio State's gonna win that game. We don't really Mark, no, we don't really need to discuss it. So they play Wisconsin, and then they get a bye before we thought would be the biggest game of the year. Turns out to be a dud. And I found out there was news today, Mark, that there was rumors going around OSU might not even pick that game all of a sudden, or not OSU. Fox might not even take that game, as I was reading today. So we'll
I
see.
wouldn't blame them.
Because I think if I read it right, USC plays Nebraska that day at Nebraska.
Yes.
Surprised if Fox takes that game, but we'll see. Ohio State's probably gonna be at 3. We'll see. Times they go 6-day windows, so we won't know that till next week. I believe we'll know what time that
Yeah,
game is.
I
But
believe so.
they do week by week, depending how big's the game are. That's when the channels pick. But all right, we're gonna move on to another. It's kind of a Big Ten night here because that's where all the big games kind of came out of this week. As Indiana pulls the upset over Oregon, 30-20. Indiana looked the part; they looked great. Oregon is gonna be there at the end. Just a matter if they are gonna be in as a Big Ten champion or runner up, or they're gonna be a at large bid. But they got Indiana's got the team. They got that high Francisco Mendoza that is right there, Mark. And I would want the Brown. It's looking like more. I wouldn't mind if the Browns took him at this point. And hey, the Fighting Signettis, you Google him, he wins undefeated, number 3, and is setting up as of right now a showdown with Ohio State in the first weekend of December for the Big Ten title.
Yeah. Mendoza's looked the part. I mean, they've been blowing teams out. They gave Oregon all what they could handle. That running game is starting to pile on for Signetti as well. I mean, you've got a 70-yard rusher with 2 touchdowns. I understand his average is a little lower, but when it comes to it, you have him. And on the outside, I want to give big props to Elijah Surratt, number 13 for Indiana. 8 receptions again this week, 121 yards and a touchdown. This kid is going crazy this year. I know he's an upperclassman, but not a lot of people are talking about him because there's so many other receivers. Like there's Jeremiah Smith, there's Ryan Williams. Elijah Surratt has been balling out all year long for this Indiana team. He's a constant weapon for Mendoza, and Mendoza's looked the part. You're talking about an 88.6 QBR. He did throw a pick in this game, but Oregon does have a good defense. He went 20 for 31, 215. I mean, he, he's playing lights out, and that defense. I mean, they turned the arguably the Heisman favorite at the time, Dante Moore, over twice. So I mean, that's something to behold. As well as they held 5-star Decorian Moore, who's had a great season so far as a freshman, to 4 catches, 39 yards. That offense never really got off for Oregon, and they've been pretty lights out all year long. So I mean, Indiana after last year, after kind of crapping down their leg in both big games versus Ohio State and in the CFP, I mean, they're looking like they're bigger and better, and Signetti's got these boys rolling.
It's yeah, and here's a as Mendoza got a good spiral. I was watching him, and they were kind of going
Yeah,
over some tape this morning. He's got a good spiral on that ball. When he could throw, he could throw, hitting guys like where they want, like in the face mask where the ball should be. So he's got a good ball. I mean, Oregon,
yeah.
they look they're still they're going to be in there to the end. Dante Moore looked great, even though they kind of struggled a little bit. But Indiana looked more hungry and just wanted him more. And another thing with Indiana, they still got some senior led guys. So it's gonna be. I was reading some things too. It's gonna be very interesting how Indiana responds, not this year, but next year when they have to start recruiting a little more and how the cycle comes, the transfers. Are they going to be able to sustain the success? I was talking to someone today about it, and we kind of talked about the same thing. Are they going to be able to sustain the success the past 2 years? And when they start losing, how does Signetti handle it? Because he only knows about winning. And but here's a question I got for you, Mark. When the CFP poll comes out, does Indiana jump Ohio State based resume with a couple better wins than Ohio State just based on resume? Because just a question. This is not me being anti Ohio State. I was literally thinking about this as you were speaking. They got the win at Oregon. If they who else they got? They went well. They non-conference might hurt them though. Non-conference might hurt them. Ohio State's got the better non-conference win, but this is when the debate starts coming in. Does Indiana with that better win on the road compared to Ohio State? Because now Ohio State's schedule looks bleak. Penn State sucks. Who knows what Michigan's going to be? Ohio's barely winning. Minnesota sucks. Wisconsin sucks. So okay, you're beating teams you have to, but if we're going off
Yep.
resume and all that, I think Indiana has the better resume unless you go non-conference in Ohio State. So it's gonna be a good debate come November.
I would not disagree. They have um obviously a top 5 win this week against Oregon. And when you look at, and the committee has said this before, when there's two teams that are very similar to each other, you look at how they beat similar teams.
Yep.
Remember, Indiana blew the doors off of Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
63-10. Ohio State kind of slow played Illinois a little bit. Granted, Indiana was at home versus Ohio State being on the road, but Ohio State only won 34-16. Indiana dropped 60 points on
Yeah.
Illinois and had their backups in that were scoring. So that is a big talk. The only thing I will say is that Texas win looks a little better after this week, which I'm sure we'll touch on here in a second. But
SEC
when it comes
bias.
to Ohio State, I think the only way they don't get jumped by Indiana is because they are the defending champs and they have won handily every single game.
Yeah.
Like they haven't really had much of a scare once it comes to the second half of games, and they do have a number one ranked defense in the country. That would be the only way I think we don't get jumped. But I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana come that first CFP poll, if they're number one and Ohio State's number two, based off wins that they've gotten and the way that they've won, because I mean Indiana's been blowing the doors off of teams.
Yeah, and it's very, very interesting. The rest of us go. They got to go to Penn State, so that's another common opponent. They did win in Kinnick though, and Kinnick's very tough to play against Iowa, so that could be kind of a weighing factor. Ohio State has not really been challenged, and this is speaking non-biased. They haven't really been challenged. So when it comes to resume, Ohio State people are gonna be freaking out. Oh, why are we number one? Blah blah blah. Okay, great, but Indiana's gone into tougher environments and has played
Yep.
tougher. A little bit two tougher environments. Iowa and Oregon on both on the road compared to what Ohio State has been
And
playing so
and,
far.
and Autzen is no joke to play in either.
No, especially when at daytime when it's rocking, and then Ohio State. The next big challenge is gonna be pretty much at Michigan, and if that game means
Yep.
something, that's probably gonna be the game of the week. As obviously we'll make it the game of the week, but depends what the records are for national purposes.
Of
But
course.
that's probably Ohio State's next biggest test to get over that Michigan hump. So it's something to think about. Do they jump? I don't think so, but I mean there'll be a lot of SEC teams in there.
There's a possibility, that's for sure.
Not to keep in the back of your mind. Where's Miami fall? Because obviously now Oregon's going to be up there, so that's a favor of Ohio State or of Indiana. Now Ohio State, I wouldn't say rooting for Michigan to win, but if Michigan keeps winning, that adds better to their resume because anybody they play in front of Michigan is not helping their cause to be a better seed right now. But they'll probably get it regardless. But still, when you look at resumes, if Michigan's unranked going into that game like last year, and they somehow lose, which kind of helped them as we all saw, but eventually it might catch up to them. You lose to Michigan. I don't. You play these unranked teams again, then you're kind of. I don't know, Mark. You're kind of wishing some of these
I
teams were
mean,
ranked better seed or ranking.
yeah, I agree. And obviously, Kyle, you know how I am. I'm diehard Ohio State, but I've always said, and I've always stood by this as long as I've been able to actively and semi-educatedly, um, mainly uneducatedly, comment on
Yeah,
football, especially when it comes to college. As an Ohio State fan, a lot of people will disagree with me about this, but they're stupid in this sense. You always want teams like Penn State, Michigan to be their best when you play them because it's about when you beat them. It's not about when where they are at the end of the season. If you get top five wins, you get top five wins at that point in time. Not top they don't become non-top five wins at the end of the season. Like if Oregon were to fall to 10, 11, 12, even, Indiana still gets that top five win because they beat number three Oregon in the time they played. You always want the good teams to be as good as possible when you run into them so that your resume looks that much better, especially when it comes into seeding. If you want buys, if you want home field advantage in this playoff, that's very important. So obviously, um, it doesn't sound correct, but typically I root for all Big Ten teams in the top of the Big Ten, especially Michigan, your Penn States, when it comes to when they don't play Ohio State, because I need them to be as good as possible when Ohio State comes to town. Because when Ohio State does what's expected and comes out with a win, it makes us look that much better.
yeah. So you go to Wisconsin, which they're not going to be ranked. They're not going to be ranked the rest of the season, so that's a
But
loss.
shout out Jaden Ballard, Ohio State wide receiver transfer.
Yeah, and Luke Fickle, who is from Ohio State, does he become the next Ohio State defensive coordinator when Matty P does probably leave at some point when the NFL comes calling again? Ohio State will be looking for a defensive coordinator. Maybe it's Luke Fickle unless he gets a job before Matty P does leave. Then they got Penn State. We all know what's going on at Penn State. They probably won't be ranked by the time they get to Ohio State. Purdue, that's a sneaky one on the road at Purdue. Purdue's been playing a little bit. They just put 30 points up on Illinois, so that could be a sneaky game. We're not saying it's going to be a trap game, but then they got UCLA at home though, so that kind of helps. But the UCLA, if they play the way they've been playing, that might give Ohio State some fits, especially with that new offensive coordinator that's been
I
scoring 30
agree.
plus
That
points a
kid,
game.
that kid's on a roll.
Yeah, if they keep playing, and then they got Rutgers, should handle Rutgers, and then the big ones. So I mean, we were not going to say Ohio State's going to trip up, but some scares between Purdue and UCLA. maybe not off the table by the time before Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Once again, we think Wisconsin should get steamrolled by Ohio State, so we're not going to pay attention to that game. We'll discuss it briefly next week, but then move on. All right, one more game to wrap up the review of college football this week. What is going on, Mark? Another fascinating story we're going to be following, especially when we talk about coaching. Pitt beats Florida State 34-31. Florida State was coming off a huge win against Alabama, top 10 Alabama. Now they are 0-3 in the conference. Pitt always plays hard for Pat Narduzzi. Pat Narduzzi is a sneaky team that you just fall asleep on them. They're going to come and they're going to take you behind the woodshed and just beat the heck out of you. But how long does Florida State keep their coach? Does he get fired if they don't win a conference game or even go bowling this year? I think that's on the table.
I definitely think it's on the table. I mean, he got his signature win, and since they beat Bama, I mean, outside of I think there was one game after that Bama game. Ever since then, they've been in a bunch of dog fights, and they've lost a few games now. I mean, it's looking more and more and more scary for him, and his seat is starting to get hot again. They didn't play well last year. They got this transfer quarterback. They beat Bama, and then there was all the hype behind them. Even I fell into the hype because they played well the first 2 weeks.
Nobody,
They,
yeah,
I mean,
Bama.
they made Bama look like crap. They made Bama in Kalen DeBoer's seat so hot in the beginning of the year, and now all of a sudden the tables have reversed. Bama's back on their hot streak. Ty Simpson looks great, but
Mhm.
now you're looking at Florida State, where I mean, they're slipping, they're falling, they're stumbling all over the place, and it's like they beat Bama and then turned it in for the season. I don't really understand what's going on down there, and I mean, maybe just maybe James Franklin ends up there. You never know because I don't know that this coach gets out of the season if they don't end up in that ACC conference game, especially how weak the ACC is this year.
Yeah, but I was talking to somebody. I mean, does Dion? We don't know what or Dion from Colorado. Does he go back down? I know he was rumored before Norvell, but he does have some health problems going on. What does he decide to do after the season? Does he kind of leave? Does he kind of or does he kind of call quits? Does he stay in Colorado where he doesn't have to move again because of his health? We don't know, but we're praying for him that it's nothing more serious than what it is. But yeah, on Florida State, they came in, they were top 10, beat Alabama, and this was like a Penn State story. And then they just fell apart. They fell apart after a big win. I mean, granted, Penn State didn't really get a big win because they were playing Division two FCS teams, but it's very interesting. You go, okay, they win the first three. Okay, you're feeling good. You're 3-0. Last year it was just a fluke. Now you're 0-3 in conference, and it don't get much easier. You still got Clemson, who Clemson will be battling. You just lost to Miami, and it's not going to get easier from here on out. You got Stanford this week. You should beat Stanford, but it's on the road. You never know. You never know. Stanford's hungry to get back on the map, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Florida State from here on out. Whether they keep their coach, this could be another, like you said, Mark, a big job opening coming up come December when the season is over. And if I don't, they might not even get to a bowl game at this point because
I wouldn't be
you're three
shocked.
three. You got to win three more somehow, and no three are given. And they got to play Florida, who Florida's playing tough too. So that's Clemson and Florida, who are still games you probably aren't you're not guaranteed to win. And Florida obviously is an in-state rival end of the year, like a Michigan, Ohio State. So it's going to be very interesting what Mike Norvell does at the end of the season with Texas, or excuse me, with Florida and Clemson, because those are games that he loses, he's gone.
Yeah, I agree, and I do. I think Dion is a good candidate for that job. Colorado gets a big win this week and knocks off Iowa State as well. That I know. I mean, there was so many crazy things going on that obviously we can't touch on at all. But I could see Dion going down there as well. He loves Florida. He loves Florida State. And I think they'd be willing to give him the bag. And I don't. I mean, I don't think Florida State's a shoe in to truly make a bowl game at this point in time. The way they've slipped, fallen, stumbled down. So that's another big storyline coming up because that's 2 years in a row that he has a good team or
Yeah,
what should have been a good team, and he's not footing that bill very well.
falling the James Franklin category almost. If you think we talk about
Yeah,
came in a big
literally.
and he hasn't made the. They should well technically they should have made that 14 playoff, but they undefeated. But God forbid SEC bias, and your guys are gonna hear a lot of SEC bias talk once the brackets come out,
Oh, it's
and
coming.
because we're gonna be very frustrated with some teams that don't deserve to get in over some teams, especially if they're in the SEC that they don't deserve to get in.
Yep.
So hang on tight for that because it's gonna be pretty heated when we see those brackets, and we are very displeased. Even though the games will be played by then, by the time you come on Sundays, but we'll still discuss the bracket and be very upset with it. And hopefully the committee does better
Nine
this
times
year.
out of 10.
Yeah, pretty much. So, but we don't know ball. I don't think the committee knows ball either. But that's why they get paid what they do to pick teams, and we'll go from there. As Pitt does defeat Florida State 34-31 to send Florida State to 0-3 in conference. So, all right, we're gonna move on here to pick some games for the week for college. Before we move on to a couple other things, we're gonna start, Mark, Friday night. It's a big one, ACC eliminator, pretty much. Louisville and Miami. Miami both coming off a bye, so this will be both well rested teams. Who do you got and why?
I like Miami. I think their weapons are just too good. Carson Beck is playing back to what he did a couple years ago at Georgia. He's got weapons. The younger Tony brother is a force to be reckoned with in the open field. Their running game is up there. Their defense is playing well. Louisville is a gritty team. You can't ever sleep on them. They're always in the mix every single year. But I think Miami takes this one, and they've looked the part so far of a number two team in the country for sure.
Yeah, this was kind of a toss up at the beginning, but I think Miami won. It could be a battle back and forth. Jeff Brom's teams are always sneaky. They always hang around, and if you let them hang around, they're going to strike. Just like we talked about with a couple other teams early on. But I like Miami in this one. I think Miami's going to eventually pull away late third, early fourth. They just got too much firepower, especially knowing the chaos that's happening in college football. Because they know if they fall, they're going to start falling, and they don't. And I think
Yep.
they know Indiana breathing down their neck, Ohio State looking apart, Old Miss still hanging around. I think they take care of business and win very easily later on. We'll move on to another game that's Saturday in the SEC. A sneaky good one, but we don't know if the Vandy could hold on against LSU. It's LSU and Vandy. Vandy's pretty much playing for any type of SEC title hopes, which they still probably won't make it, but one could dream, right? Nice fairy tale story like Indiana the past couple years, but they do got an LSU team where if LSU's not careful, Mark, like Alabama was last year, Vandy could strike, and that could be the nail in the coffin for Brian Kelly. Who do you like?
I um I'm I do like Vandy. They're a good team. They've played some great football again, but I think LSU and Garrett Nussmeier just has a little bit too much firepower. I do agree though. If Brian Kelly doesn't have these kids ready to go, Vandy not only will sneak up on you, but they again, I mean, they'll take you out and they'll take you out quick and they'll talk their shit when they do it. Pavia is a good quarterback. I like him a lot. But I think Nussmeier and those weapons. I believe they get Caden Durham back this week if he didn't come back last week. And some of their receivers that had some nagging injuries should be a little bit more healthy. And I think LSU kind of gets back on the horse, gets a top 25 win here against Vandy, and kind of keeps it rolling here towards the SEC title game. But I think it's going to be a close one. Honestly, Vandy's playing good football. I know the scoreboard says otherwise when they played Bama, but they played Bama tough.
Yeah,
If it wasn't for a couple of bad decisions in the red zone, we could be talking about Vandy potentially in an SEC title game. So definitely don't count them out. I don't think it's going to be a blowout game one way or the other, but I do think LSU does pull away.
yeah, I'm throwing LSU. If Vandy's sneaky, I think they could win, but LSU, I think they know what's going on. I think Brian Kelly knows what's going on down there, especially with all the shakeup in college football, because they know one shakeup from Miami or an Ole Miss team that's playing Georgia this week, and they could be right up there again and challenging for the SEC and getting a top five, or top five, top 10. They're 10 right now, but could move up depending on the week of games this
Yep.
week. But I like LSU. I think LSU could be too much. Vandy might hang around for a little bit, but at the end, it's good for Vandy though. They're getting their name out there. They're back. They're getting back, and maybe not this year, but maybe next year they run the table or something. They get back, but it's good name. It's good
Always
recruiting.
possible.
Yeah, it's good recruiting. So give me LSU in that one. It's the third. Let's do this one. It's the third Saturday of the month of October, where Tennessee and Alabama do play every year. The third Saturday of the month is kind of a tradition. I, I think Bama. I like Bama at home. I think Tennessee's going to come in. They're going to be looking for firepower, but I think Bama's rolling right now. They went and defeated Missouri. They got another top 25 opponent, fourth in a row. Hard to believe. That's one thing I'll give the SEC
Yeah.
credit for. They got a lot of tough teams. I think Bama's going to win. I think it'll be closer than what people think, but I think Bama runs away with it later on.
Yeah, I think uh, I'm saying Bama wins as well, but they just played in a shootout last week against Missouri, and Tennessee's got a high-powered offense too. So don't be surprised if it's a shootout where Ty Simpson has to go win this game, or Bama's defense has to make a stop or two. DeBoer is also known for coaching in shootout games from his time in
Yeah.
Washington as well. Um, I mean, give me Bama in a shootout. I think this is a high-scoring game, similar to the way that Tennessee and Georgia played. There was a lot of scoring in that game, and Tennessee obviously lost that one, and I think they lose this one to Bama as well, just because they have too much on their side, and I think their defense ends up getting the stop that they need. But I feel like this is going to be a good game shootout, and it'll be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, third Saturday. Play for a cigar of all things, so it'd be very fun to see who takes home the cigar. It was at Tennessee. I think Tennessee won it last year because of Bama kind of struggling, so that'll be a game to watch. Another game. It's game days, game of the week. Ole Miss, Georgia. This is pretty much for control of the SEC. Mark, I'm going Georgia. I think this is the time Ole Miss collapses. They barely won last week against Washington State. I think Georgia's starting to rebound and come back. I like Georgia. I think Georgia at home. They'll take care of business, and they're back to Georgia form.
Yeah, I have been kind of going back and forth. I don't think it's as lopsided as people are saying. I know there's a lot of Georgia bias. I know I love Kirby Smart as a coach, but I also like this D2 transfer kid for Ole Miss Chambliss. I think they're really they're playing good football over there in Ole Miss. They did struggle last week. I'm surprised that they even pulled it out. I think Georgia wins a very very close game, but I would not be shocked if Ole Miss pulls the rug out from under these guys and gets another win and takes control of the SEC the way this quarterback plays. I mean, he plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he plays fiery, and Lane Kiffin's going to be due for one somewhere, and who's to say this isn't the one? But give me Georgia in a close one. They've played a lot of close games as well, so they're seasoned in that, and I think they do pull it off.
Yeah, I like Georgia as well. We're going to go with kind of a quick pick, real quick. Utah, BYU. It's the College Holy War out in Provo this week, and this is actually a Big 12 eliminator. If Utah loses, they're pretty much eliminated from the Big 12 with Texas Tech and BYU hanging around. BYU, if Utah wins, it's game on in Big 12. Mark, we were talking about this. Big 12 just kind of round robin being beating up on each other. TCU lost. That kind of
Yeah.
eliminates them things. But who do you like and why?
I'm actually going to go with Utah on this one. Utah's coach is a really good big game coach. I know BYU is the favorite, but it's a very slight favorite. Um, the quarterbacks are very comparable in stat lines and things like that. Um, BYU might have the better running game, but I think Utah is just a little bit too gritty for them, and I think their coach will pull out all the stops to get this win. I believe I'm looking here. Um, BYU, it looks like, is at home,
Yeah,
so
Provo.
that is something to note. But I don't know. I like Utah in big games. They always show up, and they show up to play. They play hard, and I love their head coach. I think give me Utah in a close one, and all of a sudden the Big 12 is Texas Tech and everybody else, and let's see who ends up in that final.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth about this since we saw the schedule. BYU's at home. Utah's coming in, trying to. Last time they're on the road in a big game, they fell to Texas Tech, which everybody's been falling to Texas Tech lately. This is tough. It's a rivalry game. Utah's finally ranked. Ranked versus ranked. Fox Big Noon going to be there. I don't know. It's just tough. I'm going to go. Hate these games. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Utah. I don't want to go Utah. I don't like it, but I just think, as you said, Mark, the good coach, and they're due for a win this year. And BYU's good too, but BYU sometimes does falter. And this is BYU's shot to get into the playoff this year, along with Utah. And BYU's right there on the doorstep, and this could catapult them to getting into that Big 12 title game and getting a spot in the CFP somehow, somewhere. But Utah standing in the way. If Utah wins this, it's season back out for Utah as well. But yeah, I'm going Utah. I don't like it, but I
Yeah,
think I got.
and if you look at common opponents, Utah, they both played West Virginia this year. Utah beat West Virginia 48-14. BYU struggled a little bit with West Virginia, almost lost, pulled away later on in the game. That was in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
They played in the last week of September and the first week of October, and BYU only beat them 38-24. So definitely something to look at. But yeah, it looks like we're both going Utah. It's definitely one of those tough games to pick, but I don't know. Utah just has that grit in them to pull games like these out of their hats and find a way back in that Big 12 picture.
Yeah, another interesting college football Saturday. We're excited to watch it and cover it all for you guys. I know you guys listen to other things, but we're very excited to watch these games with you all. Before you know it, you're going to be going along with us because before you know it, it's going to be rivalry week. It's going to be college football playoff talk. It's going to be bowl season before we know it. And that's when kind of sadness kind of kicks in because we're all depressed that football comes and goes and we got to wait a whole another 9 months before we get it back. But that's why we enjoy the ride, Mark, each and every single week, especially in the college ranks.
I agree. I agree completely.
So before it gets too late in the show, I know we got a couple things to go over, and I don't want to keep those shout outs waiting. So we're gonna go shout outs first. We got a birthday, fan of the show, friend of the show, Brian, aka BK, as me and Mark got to know as I grew up with Mark. Or grew up with Brian, grew up with Mark, grew up with Mark too, but grew up with Brian. Our family's kind of related through marriage and all that, so we're quote unquote cousins. Brian's a great guy. You know, it's his birthday, actually the day of this drop of this show. So he's a great guy. Brian, happy birthday, my guy. He's always there if you ever need something or, just there to hang out. And we know we bust each other's, we bust or we make fun of each other, joke around with each other and text chains and all that, but he's really a great guy. And from the fights in the backyard of wiffle ball, from hitting each other with foam bats to playing mini hockey in the basement, brother, happy birthday, my guy. Hope you have a fantastic day and enjoy your day. As we have an anniversary shout out. Is Brandy and Josh? They have been married for 6 years this past Sunday. So I just want to give them a quick shout out. Happy anniversary to those guys. I got to know Brandy over the past couple of months and been nothing short of amazing. Their whole family's amazing. Josh, their kids are amazing as well. So, Brandy, I hope you and Josh had a great anniversary weekend and happy belated and I can't talk anniversary weekend and much love and can't wait to chat with you very soon. All right, we're going to kind of cut things up real quick, talk some MLB as the playoffs continue. We are in the championship series mode for both sides as Seattle, right before we came on the air, just took a 2-0 lead over Toronto. Just got to win best of seven, win two more, and they're into the World Series. And the Dodgers, and are playing the Brewers. I haven't checked that score. 0-0 last time I looked. As
It's 1-0 right now in the bottom of the sixth as we speak right now.
1-0 Dodgers. Okay.
Dodgers are up. To kind of touch on that, obviously we'll know a little bit more about both series. The Mariners are on a roll. They just beat the Toronto Blue Jays 10-3 today. To go up 2-0. I mean, Seattle is I mean they're going crazy. They already beat the Blue Jays in Game 1 3-1. I mean they're hitting well. Ichiro being in there must be helping out a lot. Obviously they're getting some home runs hit between Josh Naylor. I mean they hit a plethora of bombs today, three home runs, and they're up as well as I mean, and I know when Kyle gets back, there he goes. Here, Kyle, if when you load all the way back in, I was just saying the Mariners are on a heater. As I kind of filled in, they won 10-3 today. They're hitting bombs. Ichiro is in the building. He must be helping out a whole ton because I mean they're just running rough shot through everyone.
Yeah, the Mariners, they're playing well. It's very exciting to see some fresh blood in the playoffs as the Blue Jays defeated the Yankees last week, especially literally when we were doing our live show. So that was good to see. Will the Yankees ever get
Yeah.
over that hump? They haven't won in almost a decade plus, so it's be very interesting to see how if they ever get over that hump because they can't and they won't fire their manager slash coach. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do. They defeated the Guardians last year in the ALCS, lost in the World Series to the Dodgers, but nobody's gonna beat the Dodgers. Seattle won in 15 innings over Detroit last week. That was awesome to see. We hate Detroit when it comes to baseball because they're in our division. And the Brewers are playing well. They're playing very, very well, and they got a chance to get to the World Series. What a World Series it would be if there was no Dodgers or Yankees, Mark. That'd be very interesting to see.
That I mean, it would be a first for recent memory. I mean, everybody obviously even if whether you follow baseball or not, who the Dodgers are, you know who the Yankees are, and Kyle, we talked about it originally, um, and I'm going to raise the question to you as more of our baseball guy here. What do the Yankees do with that manager? They seem to not be able to get into the hump. Their best players are outside of Judge this year. They kind of choke in these big games, and all of a sudden, they're losing series. They can't get out of the ALDS. I mean, if you're the Yankees, what do you do with that manager, and is it time to move on?
Well, they just extended him the last season, so he's probably there at least another year, unless they pull the trigger and fire him. He hasn't been fired yet as of this recording, as we don't usually. They take some time to kind of deliberate if they're going to keep him. I would assume they keep him for at least another year, but they lose next year. Then I think it kind of creeps in. What do they do? Do they keep him? Because they they should make the playoffs next year. It's just a matter if they're a wild card team or a division winner. Because Toronto looks on the up and up, Seattle looks on the up and up. Boston was there. That's who they actually beat in the wild card was Boston. So that division's tough. It's four teams that got in this year, or excuse me, three teams that got in this year, and it's be very interesting what they do. I don't know. Aaron Boone, he's a good manager. I don't say good manager, but I mean he's a good guy. He's a good coach, but he can't manage to save his life to get his team over the hump. So we'll be interested to see how they do it and how that all goes about. But yes, the Brewers look good. Dodgers, nobody likes the Dodgers, but they're always in it. They spend that money. When you have that payroll mark, I guess you just gotta hey,
Hey, money talks. That's the famous phrase is money talks.
money talks. As Seattle's up 2-0, they do play Wednesday night, the next game three Wednesday, the day of this recording, and then they play, and then we'll know pretty much by the time this drops where the series are. Game two of the Dodgers series is tomorrow, so we'll be covering it all the way through the World Series, and then we'll flip it on to basketball and hockey. So we're very excited for that. Basketball starting up next Tuesday, so we'll be very excited to see. We'll get ready to talk some ball with some of our guests too coming up in the near future. All right, let's get some NFL before we bore you guys to death and you guys stop watching. Well, Browns fall again, 23-9, and it's been a disaster of a season. Defense just looks tired, Mark, from being on the field. Here's what I wrote down: is Dylan the fit? Is it time to let Stefanski go? Steelers are locked in for the division. Y'all laughed at me. Y'all laughed at me when I said Steelers are going to win the division, and they're the only
We
one over.
did. We
They're
definitely
the
did.
they're the only one over 500 right now, and they're pretty much which I doubt a catastrophe happens where they collapse. They're going to be in the division. As Ravens aren't doing anything this year, we're not obviously Cincinnati. And how pretty much the other question is how long till we see Sanders, Mark? Lots of questions that we can't answer because we're not in that front office. But it just looks embarrassing at this point what this team's doing.
Yeah, they look like shit. The defense is begging for any type of drive to happen. Gabriel sucks. It's time to get him out of here. This is my theory, Kyle. I told you about it the other day, and I'm sticking beside it even as I've had the time to sit on it. It's time to sit Gabriel, play Sanders, and then let Deshaun Watson. Once he comes back, he's already been working on the facility. Barry and Stefanski have been watching him. You got to see what's left in those two. Then between those two, you pick your starter. You go into the draft next year. You try to actively tank while seeing what you got in this quarterback room. You go for a wide receiver like a Carnell Tate from Ohio State or best available, and you get the best available O lineman, and you try to build around one of these quarterbacks. The quarterback class is becoming less and less significant when it comes to next year's draft. And obviously we'll touch on that as that gets closer. I am kind of off of almost all of these quarterbacks for the most part. I know there's some here and there that are going to show face and they're going to look better as the college weeks go on. But I think it's time to play Sanders. Gabriel just isn't there. He's definitely afraid to throw the long ball. I counted 5 hospital balls last week against the Steelers defense that is old, but they're still looking to come downhill and destroy you, rip your head off. He got
Yeah, especially in the
Njoku
rivalry
killed
games. Yeah.
once. He almost got him killed 2 more times. He almost got Judy decapitated, and he almost got Bond decapitated. And that's just from what I've seen. And Fannin as well. He set Fannin up. You had receivers literally scared to go across the middle and attempt to get a ball because he was throwing hospital balls all over the place. He's he's too small. He can't see over the line. He's not it. And I didn't think he was it coming out of college. and now it's being proven to me again in this. And I think it's time for Stefanski to go as well. I mean, he's a bum of a play caller. You have all this stuff going on. He gives the same bullshit answers every week. Oh, we're fine. Oh, we got to do this. Oh, we
We
got to
have
do
to do
that.
better.
Just
We
get the
have to do
fuck out of
better.
here. You suck as a coach. It's time to move on.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know where to go from here. Stefanski's too stubborn to give up play calling. He should have been giving up play calling last year because
Yep.
he did the Ken Dorsey, but then when it didn't work out, I think he did it in spite of the fans, just to be like, look, it didn't work out here. There's why I'm calling plays. He's too stubborn to give up plays. The defense looks tired because they've been on the field every single minute of the season, pretty much, because the offense
Yeah, they're
does
playing
run the
like
ball.
85% of the snaps.
Yeah, and Dylan can't throw the ball. He can't throw the ball over 15 yards. They sail over people's heads and he gets people killed. And I think I was listening to a on the radio today. I think you got to fire both or you keep them one more year. But I just think if you bring in a new quarterback, you bring in a new coach, and you bring in a new GM, you can't, and with the new QB, you can't just have, because okay, you bring in a new QB this year, then you or next year, and then you fire both of them after next season, and then you're like, okay, you drafted this kid for nothing. I think Stefanski and Barry go this year. You start over, you start fresh, get a new fresh name in it. I mean, look at might as well bring it up now. Tennessee fired Bill Callahan, or not Bill Callahan, Brian Callahan today, as he's gone. He's the first coach to go. Mark, if he could do it, the Browns could do it. They could fire Stefanski. I think it's time to go. It's time for Stefanski.
Yeah. I
The
mean,
process is done. It's long overdue for Hall.
yeah, the, get those coach of the years out of here. I don't want to hear it anymore. Um, I mean, it's time for him to go. The organization needs to stop being so damn stubborn and just get rid of him and move on. Um, the fans here are clamoring for any type of excellence, and he's not fitting the bill. It's time for him to go. Get rid of him. Promote Schwartz if that's what he wants. Let Tommy restart calling plays and let's go from there. I mean, there's got to be something else that we can do because this just ain't working. If he can play a decent stretch down the end, and we go from there. That this team is in shambles and there's no time to get rid of the coach. It's time to get rid of Dylan Gabriel and it might be time to get rid of Barry. Maybe Barry gets another year based off of the fact that one of these play well. I think Sanders will play well. I think that he will be ready at the time of his number being called. But at the same time, I mean, there's no guarantees there when it comes to that either. So I mean, we'll see what happens with the Browns. The Browns are the Browns. They know how to lose. They're really good at losing. And at the end of the day, um, when it comes to all of these things, truthfully speaking, um, I mean, there's not a lot of hope right now in Cleveland for Cleveland Browns football at the time of this recording and moving forward. But as us Clevelanders always say, there's always next year.
Sorry about the technical difficulties, folks. We'll get it fit. Hopefully, it's been working. I don't
The
know why
Browns
it's
are in so bad that it wants to cut us off.
yeah cut us off. So 40 editing is gonna be fun on this, but we'll see how that goes. As they play Dolphins this week, it's a loser. It's pretty much a coach loser coach leaves town match. You would think if there's no way he keeps his job if he loses to Miami,
Probably.
especially the way Miami played, it's gonna be very very interesting. As we're gonna kind of speed it up as because the internet's kind of being wonky. Mark, Rams Ravens is the Rams season already over at 1-5 without Lamar? The Rams took advantage. Can the Ravens come back? Probably. I don't know if they could come back, Mark, because I don't know. 1-5 it seems like tough hill to climb. Who would have thought they would be where they are at this point of the season?
Yeah, I I like the Ravens as a franchise. I mean, they've done a lot of good things. They win a lot, but I don't see how they can come back from where they're at right now. I mean, I think it's just going to be too difficult to it's going to be too difficult to do. I think injuries have played them. I think bad play and bad luck have played them. I just don't see how they have a way forward. And at the end of the day, I just they might be cooked for this year, and I think it's time to punt and try again next year where they potentially have the opportunity to give or take work through some things, maybe get some better O line play, get some of the old guys, the old heads out of the defense, and work from there. So we'll see what happens. But I think the Ravens, as of this recording and as this point in time, I think they're done for.
Yeah, who would have thought? Derrick Henry ain't Derrick Henry. He's still scared of fumbles. He did score this week. The Rams, they're looking good. They lost Puka though. That's gonna be very interesting how long he's out for. They got to play this week in London. He sounds like
Yeah,
he will
that would
not
hurt my
play.
fantasy. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, and parlays and all that. But doesn't sound like he's gonna play this week, unless something drastically changes. So he's out with an ankle injury, and we'll see. But they looked apart even when they don't got a good team. When they don't got a decent team, they still find a way to win. They beat the 49ers last week. Or no, they lost to the 49ers, but come back and beat the Ravens, which is it's very and football's confusing. You don't know what's happened one week from another. The Rams, look like crap and they come back and win. Ravens, they're without Lamar, you can't really win, especially with a Cooper Rush
Yeah,
back
that's
there.
hurting them bad.
Yeah, you can't have Lamar back there. But even with Lamar, they weren't playing up to par. They only won their guys against Cleveland. So what does that tell you? But it'd be very interesting how they bounce back
Yep.
from that this week as they're actually in a bye, so they get Lamar maybe back in 2 weeks, and we'll see how they go from there. Another decent, interesting game: Seattle and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Seattle did win 20-10. Defensive battle, and how funny is this, Mark? Greg Newsome traded, gets burnt on one of his first plays to Jackson Smith and the Jigba on a 60-yard bomb. Jags still kind of looking apart. They're still good, still look sluggish, but the Seattle looks like a contender in NFC West and NFC playoffs, Mark.
Hey, Darnold is slinging the ball, and Jackson Smith and Jigba has blossomed into a number one wide receiver. That dude is an animal. Um, I mean, you've seen what he did to Newsom. He ran right by him like he was a cone. I mean, they looked apart all around. And as long as Darnold plays well, that defense is playing well. They're a hard team to beat at home. I like the Seahawks moving forward, and I mean, don't count the Jags out just yet. But as far as the Seahawks go, man, they looked like the real deal.
Yeah, they look like the real deal, and they got that Cooper Cup to take the pressure off Nick Jigba when
Yeah,
it comes to throwing. And their running game's kind of sus. They got two, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, who are the primary ball handlers out of the backfield. They really haven't done much this year. They've kind of split the backfield, so they got to get that run game going. In order to get that run game going, they got to get those guys going because eventually, like we talked about with Ohio State, that the throwing's going to get shut down. They got to rely on either Charbonnet or Walker. Walker's getting up there in age. They've both been hurt, have their fair share of injuries, so it'll be very interesting how they do handle it moving forward. As they got some big divisional games still coming up again with Seattle, Arizona, or with Arizona, San Fran, and LA. So that the West still to be decided. They're being up on each other as well. And San Fran, we're going to talk about San Fran right now as we're going to pull the band-aid off, Mark. They lost to the 49ers 30, or they lost to the Bucks 30-19, but Baker doing Baker things, making Cleveland regret it. Each week they are 5-1, looking pretty for the playoffs right now, Mark.
he man, he looks good. I mean, he's an MVP front runner right now. He is. I mean, he didn't even have his first or his yeah, his top four receivers, and he still found a way to win. I understand Fred Warner got hurt. Hopefully a speedy recovery to him. He's
Yeah.
a really great linebacker. But I mean, as far as Baker and the Bucks are concerned, I mean they're played with injuries, and Baker is willing them to win. No Bucky Irving, no Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans. Egbuka went out in this game, and all of a sudden Tez Johnson comes in and catches a 45-yard touchdown, and that's because of Baker. Baker is willing this team to win, and
Yeah.
honestly, he's my front runner for MVP right now. I mean, the kid's playing great, and he's dumping a bunch of salt in the wound when it comes to um, when it comes to Cleveland sports and the way he's playing football at this point in time.
Yeah, that's what like their fifth, sixth string receiver just catching balls from
Yeah,
from Baker as Godwin's out, Evans is out, and Otten he's kind of hit and miss their tight end, but and they're and Igbuka's out now, so they're pretty much playing with their fourth, fifth, or sixth string receivers. It's very interesting how that team's being put together, and if they keep their head above water, I even with a full string, they're Super Bowl contenders right now. I that's. That's
I
me.
agree.
That's a hot
They're
take.
going to be a tough out.
Yeah, they're gonna be tough out, and they got a good test next week against Detroit against that banged up defense on the road to see if they could go into Detroit. And if they take that win, they're sitting pretty 6-1 going into that bye week. I think they feel pretty good about where they're at, especially in the station. Like we said, they should win the South. There's no one that's really going to be challenging them unless Atlanta makes a run. But so the division should be theirs. Where they're seated is a different story, but yeah, I like the part Tampa just pulling that band-aid right off. Browns are starting to find QBs, and Baker's just slinging it and having fun at the time of his life in Tampa, Mark.
Yep. I mean, he's showing up, he's showing out, and I mean, they're a force to be reckoned with, man. They're playing good football. Todd Bowles really trusts that kid, and at the end of the day, I mean, man, he's going nuts. He's going nuts, and he's an MVP front runner for a reason. Um, I mean, what
Yeah,
else can you say? But I'm happy for him.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes next week as they play Detroit. As one more game to wrap up the NFL slates, we're gonna kind of go quick because my internet. Once again, I apologize. It was a great show till then. Stupid technology and internet for you. Detroit and Kansas City. It was a very interesting game in Kansas City. Here comes Kansas City rising from the dead, Mark, 30-17 type of game, and Detroit fighting those defensive injuries, but can't cut off the head of the snake of the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, you can't. And as long as they got 15 back there, I mean, yeah, as long as they got 15, they're in it. Kelsey is starting to heat up. Um, Brian Branch whoops the shit out of Juju Smith Schuster at the end of that game. But Juju is a weapon. The Rasheed Rice is coming back. Worthy
Yeah,
is still there. I understand he's not the best, but Worthy is still there. Hollywood Brown is there. They're starting to get their running game going. But again, as
nope.
long as you got 15, you got Spagnola calling that defense. They always have an opportunity, and they should know nobody should have counted them out because now they're proving a whole lot of people that they're still around. They're still in this, and you better not sleep.
No, and they got the Raiders this week. They got a favorable schedule coming up. Detroit still kind of got to get through tough parts, like we said with Tampa. But we weren't knew Kansas City was going to roll around. They're going to probably make a run at this. Probably win a division again, unless because the Chargers are still banged up. They barely won yesterday against Miami. Denver's barely won against the Jets. So it's going to be a very interesting race. The two races, this race and the NFC West, will be two races to watch. As I think the other ones are pretty much kind of taken with some of the others. Now, if Buffalo loses, it could be NFC East two-team race for them and the Patriots. Oh boy, how about that? We'll kind of discuss that if Buffalo continues to lose and New England continues to win. But so that's the kind of we
Yeah.
kind of touched on
New
the
England
coach.
looks good right now too.
Yeah, they're taking care of their schedule. They got Tennessee coming up. They should win. Tennessee just fired their coach, as we mentioned earlier. Brian Callahan no longer with the team. Hey Browns, get excuse me, you should look. They fired their coach. Why can't you do that? So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes as we kind of talk about that. As Mark, we talked about Cam Ward. He kind of said he wasn't happy with the way things were going, and the front office, I guess, listened. And now Tennessee will be the first team looking for a new coach.
Hey, you heard him. We ass, and they're definitely our ass. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I think he's going to have a big role in who they hire next. Cam Ward is. I mean, I like him as a quarterback. I think he's a hell of a talent, and I think they need to do right by him and give him someone that can gel and can really get this team going. But the GM also needs to give them some help as well. The GM is not doing them any favors when it comes to um, anything of the sort. And I think it's time that he puts some real weapons over there and see what they got.
yeah, and yeah, it's gonna be. They got some. They got a good. They really don't got a good running. I mean, I think the offense needs a complete overhaul. They got Calvin Ridley. He's hurt. They're kind of newbies on the wide receiver
He's
core. They're still
always hurt.
yeah, he's always hurt, and kind of the core Tennessee's defense. It's gonna be a rebuild for them, just like the Raiders. It's gonna be they should be 0-6 right now, Tennessee, but Arizona gave them that game last week with that fumble in the end zone. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how
Yep.
Tennessee goes about that. All right, we're gonna do some picks here to wrap up the night. We're gonna start in London. Get your tea and crumpets. 9:30 a.m. in London. Rams and Jags. Definitely an interesting one. Who would have thought this or earlier on when the schedule was released? Mark, who do you got and why?
I've been going back and forth on this. I think a couple weeks ago I would have picked the Rams, but at the same time, it's getting harder and harder to pick against Jacksonville because they do look so good. I think I am going to go with the Rams in the close one because I'm waiting for Trevor Lawrence to kind of fall back into what he normally does. He is mistake prone, but he is playing very well right now. I think as far as that goes, I like Matt Stafford. I like the Rams' weapons. It's going to depend on Puka coming back. I think I think he's out as of right now.
Yeah.
As of the time of this recording, but you never really know with those like Samoan Hawaiian dudes. Somehow, some way, they always end up just healthy as ever, and then they'll go for like 200 yards on one leg or something like that. But I think the Rams might, and Stafford specifically might just be too much, and I think I'm going to go with them in a close one.
Yeah, I have been going back and forth. It could go either way. We didn't think the Jags would beat Kansas City night last week. I like the Rams. I think they should still win, but I don't know. It's tough. It's tough after seeing them lose to a JV 49ers team a couple of weeks ago. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Jags. I'm pulling the upset here. I think the Jags win. I think they win. And Jags is the second. It's London's the second home for the Jags. I think the Jags are going there, and I think it's gonna be close. I won't be surprised if the Rams win, but I think if the Rams did win, but I Jags are playing with a lot of confidence right now. They should have. They almost beat Seattle, and
I
this is
agree
their, if
with
they
that.
win. If they win this, they're 5-2 coming back home, and their season is not far off. And I think for Browns luck, they probably will win and move their pick even farther down than what we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season. So I like the Jags for other reasons as well in
Unfortunately,
that one. What's gonna go? Eagles Vikings is a very interesting game in the NFC. Could be for playoff positioning, whether division winners or just wild card teams. I think I'm gonna go Eagles. Vikings don't know what their QB situation is. It could be Sam or not Sam. It could be Carson Wentz. Could be JJ McCarthy. I think that plays a factor. I think the Eagles somehow get on track. Even they're not even their offense is still not even on the same page, but they still find ways to win. I like the Eagles in this one. I like the Eagles in this one after getting shellacked against the Giants. I think they come back and bounce back, Mark.
yeah, I agree. I just think I think when it comes to the Vikings, they have too much turmoil, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. I'm waiting for Barkley to kind of get his footing and pop back off. And I think this might be one of the weeks that you do it. How do you neutralize a good defense by running the ball? Um, and I'm waiting for the defense of the Eagles to kind of shape them back up. I think this might be a week where they do so. Give me the Eagles. I think they're embarrassed by what what the kids in New York did to them the other week, and I think they have a bad taste in their mouth that they're ready to get out. And unfortunately, this is a team that happens to be in front of them. And if they play Carson Wentz, they might turn that dude over a couple of times. I think the Eagles might win this one pretty handily and get back on the schneid here.
Yeah, I like the Eagles win. I think I like your could win easily here. I think maybe by 10 plus, depending on what Vikings do this week.
Yep, I could see it.
But I won't be surprised if Vikings keep this a game. The Eagles defense did collapse on Denver last week or a couple weeks ago against the Giants. So I don't know. Defense is suspect. So we'll see this week. Another game we didn't think would be interesting this early in this or when the schedule came out. Colts and Chargers. This is a battle of could potentially playoff teams. Colts riding hot right now. Chargers dealing with injuries. Mark, who do you got and why?
I'm actually going with the crazy pregame Colts.
Yeah,
I mean
that's
the Colts are
wild.
playing great football. Danny Dimes is not really turning the ball over. They have a good run game. They have a good defense, and those receivers on the outside are playing damn good. They're getting open and they're making these teams work. They're electric on the outside, and I like everything about the Colts right now except for what's going on in their pregame warmups. When you break an orbital bone in warmups and then you have a concussion in warmups at the same breath. I think it's time to reshape how you're warming your team up. But nevertheless, I think the Colts win this one.
Yeah, Chargers still have too many defenses. They almost lost to Miami, who's 1-5. I like the Colts. If Chargers don't get a lot of guys
Yeah.
back, Colts they have Jonathan Taylor that can run. They got a couple good weapons: Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and the freak Tyler Warren. So I think the Colts win this one. I think Jim Harbaugh will work his magic and keep it close. But I think in the end, Danny Dimes goes 5-1, coming back home with the Fighting McAfee Colts this Sunday. Washington Dallas, another interesting one. Washington's playing on Monday Night Football right now, down 6 as we speak. I think I'm gonna. This is tough. they get Lamb back. I don't know. This is tough. I like Dallas in this one. I think if they get Lamb back, they played. I mean, I know their defense just got shellacked by Carolina, but I mean, Washington ain't any better. I don't think. Mark, I like Dallas in this one if they get Lamb back. But if they, yeah,
I
I think I'm.
actually I actually I'm with you on that. I like Dallas as well. At this point in time, even though the Cowboys are losing games, Dak is playing good football, all things
Best
considered.
football of his career.
Um,
Yeah,
I mean, he's keeping them in it. And Washington's offense, especially since Daniels got hurt and then came back, has been a bit dormant. They're dealing with some injuries and things like that.
yeah,
I think Dallas gets a division win here, and I think Dak plays another good game. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if Washington wins. I think it'll be a high scoring affair, but for some reason I'm getting the feeling the Cowboys pull one out and they might start going on a run here. Dak is playing good football. All things considered, his this is probably his best season so far. It's just that his team is underperforming and there's so many injuries. And especially if CD comes back, I think they're going to be a problem because Pickens is on a roll. I think Dallas wins here.
yeah. I like Dallas. I think Dallas is going to win easily, or not easily, but I think it'll be tough for them. But I think they're going to find a way to win. They're due. They always have these games each and every year where they don't think no one thinks about them going to win. They find a way to win, especially going in to kind of crunch time in the season when they get to November. And these games matter, especially divisional games. If they want, it's with the Eagles struggling. This is a game that can propel them to maybe catch the Eagles, especially if the Eagles lose this week to the Vikings. Give me Dallas in this one, but it's gonna be tough. Would I be surprised if Washington won? No, but I think at home Dallas they're looking to get back. They put up some points, so I like Dallas to win as Washington just scored a 33-yard touchdown to tie the game and probably take the lead. So that goes our pick. We know nothing about ball. Probably come
Yep,
back
and
to
that
win.
makes us look real dumb.
Yep, pretty much. But all right, one more game. The next Monday night game of a doubleheader. Bucks Lions. Mark, who do you got and why?
Um, I it's so hard because I want to pick. I think I'm going to go with the Bucks. Baker's just playing too good of football. I think it's going to be
Yeah,
a close game. Baker is I mean, he's able to find ways to win, man. I don't know
yeah,
how he's doing it. I don't know um what's it called? I don't know what horseshoe he has stuck up his ass, but I mean he finds a way to win, and when he does, he talks his shit. And as bad as the Cleveland Browns are, as good as he's playing, give me Baker in a close one. The Lions defense is beat up, and they might not have Brian Branch. He might be completely off the team after beating the shit out of Juju Smith.
yeah. That was nuts.
Yeah, I think give me the Bucks in this one, especially if Evans comes back.
Yeah, I'm going Bucks too. There's no way they. I don't the way the defense they as Branch is suspended one game without pay. Lions still dealing with their off or defensive injuries. I like the Bucks. I think their offense will keep them in, but I think as the game goes on, Baker and Tampa are going to find their stride and are going to somehow. Mike Evans may come back this week, so that might kind of be interesting. But give me the Bucks in Detroit this week. Well, Mark, episode 11 in the books. With stupid technical difficulties, kind of ruined the flow a little bit. I apologize for that. But those cows, man, those cows kind of got to me a little bit with that.
Hey man, they must have been chewing on those wires. But I actually want to chime in based off of last week. For those of you that have been following along, obviously we're on the double digits now. We can't say much, or we can't say enough. Sorry, how much we appreciate you guys coming along the ride with us. I know it was kind of out of the blue for you guys. Me and Kyle were working on it for a while. We've got some guests lined up. We're now on to episode 11. For those of you that were in the TikTok live that are new, from there, thank you. For those of you that are new through social media, through friends, through family, thank you. You guys have been amazing, and we can't wait to keep bringing you guys shows every week. It's been a blast, Kyle. I know it's something that we look forward to every week, and we can't wait to keep going on this ride with you guys. And from the bottom of our hearts, I know 10 seems like, or 11 seems like a small number, but for us, we never even thought we would get to episode 1 or 2. So the fact that we're here and the fact that you guys are still here with us, I can't thank you enough, and I know I speak for Kyle on that as well. So we appreciate you guys from the bottom of our hearts.
Yeah, we well can't. It's pretty much remarks. We appreciate you guys. TikTok, we wanted to try this out with going live in front of a crowd, see how we liked it, to interact, and we loved it. Our goal is to not be on TikTok. We're gonna be on YouTube at some point for good, as that's when we'll do our lives on there. But we need if you're new or you're watching and haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We need 10 more to get the YouTube live rolling, because that's where we want to be. TikTok is we're probably gonna still be on TikTok. I would say a couple shows, unless we get the 10, and we may officially switch, but we may still maybe do the first one in November on TikTok just to tell people where we're gonna be. But we our YouTube is gonna be our home, so that's why we're posting on YouTube. We're gonna be starting to post. Hopefully, if we could, we're starting to figure this out. Post little shorts, like if there's breaking news or something. One of us might do a quick video about it, like our thoughts, and then the next time the other person does a video, or vice versa. It just depends on what we're doing. So baby steps and all this. We got the TikTok page made. If you haven't followed it, please follow that. And then in the next, we're planning on making an Instagram probably towards the first of the year, but or maybe Twitter. We might start Twitter first, the first of the year, and go from there. But we're not rushing in anything. We're taking this baby steps, one thing at a time. So our next goal is going to be to get to YouTube and start. That'll be our next goal. If we could crush that goal, then we can move on from there and all that, etc., etc. So don't forget, like and subscribe for on YouTube. Follow the YouTube page and TikTok page, and don't forget 2 weeks. It's our Halloween special slash our next guest. Me and Mark, and hopefully our guest. We're trying to talk him into it, which is okay if he's not in a Halloween costume, whatever. But me and Mark will be in costume, as we are very excited. We got kind of our costumes picked out. I sent Mark mine. He's not showing me his, so I guess
Spooky.
we're all gonna be surprised together. You're all gonna be surprised with what we're wearing. A couple of you saw my costume already. You'll know what it is if when you guys see it. A couple of you saw it already, but yeah. So we're excited for this ride. Episode 11, 12 next week, and I know it's gonna kind of go up when we do the double shows from November to December. But we might not count. We might just count the Wednesday ones. I don't know what we'll count for Sundays. We might do something a little different, but we'll figure it out as we go. But we appreciate you guys following along. I'm sorry about technical difficulties. So if you're watching, it's a little wonky with the in and cuts. I'm gonna try to cut it the best I can. We're gonna try to cut it, but if it don't work, then you'll kind of know where my internet kind of went out. But with that being said, we're getting out of here. We got more football to watch before the end of the weekend, and then baseball and hockey and basketball is back. We thank you for joining us. Next Monday or next Wednesday, we're back here, same place. From Kyle, he's smart. We'll see you next time, only on the Final Whistle.